Hey folks, so I want to take a few minutes and talk to you guys a little bit about missions. Now, we're not only going to take a look at the mission teased in the article today and all the information found in there, but I also want to take a few minutes and talk about the 3rd edition missions, 5th and 6th, 7th edition missions. I don't really have the pictures for the 4th edition one because there really weren't any in the books and it was just all text. That's going to be boring. My planet side and the Cities of Death stuff's packed away. Same thing with my 2nd edition stuff, so it's not readily available. But for the most part, I think we're going to get a good idea of what it used to be like and what it was like very recently, and then my hopes for the future. And I'd really like to hear what you guys think and what your hopes are going to be when it comes to these new missions. So essentially, there is the Only War mission. And this is the most basic one. It's the most flexible for any style of game, and it works with armies that are usually balanced points-wise or power level-wise. It's going to be available for free in the Warhammer 40k Battle Primer, and it's also going to be available in the new rulebook itself. Now, I don't know if this is going to be the only one that's going to be in the primer, but I'm getting that sense, but we'll see. Hopefully not. Now, when it comes to this mission, it's simple to set up. It's got varying objective types, and it should offer replayability. Although I find most of the missions have some form of replayability. You just might have to do little tweaks for like Maelstrom with how to draw cards and discard cards, I think was the only thing we really did. But other than that, we replayed missions all the time. Now, when it comes to the battlefield, first turn, battle length, everything's here that you need to be able to create the actual game to basically play out a mission. So I think that's pretty straightforward. What's really nice is they've taken into account the different types of play and created missions for each of those. So open play has 3 different types of missions. Now I want you guys to pay attention to some of these names because they've been reused from some of the previous ones. So we've got stuff like open play has Annihilation, Hold at All Costs, and Death or Glory. So narrative play has 5 different missions. We've got Meat Grinder, Ambush, Patrol, Blitz, and we have Sabotage and Rescue. There's also 3 new stratagems that are focused on these. And when it comes to narrative play, it's going to be attacker versus defender. So detection and stuff that either hides your units a little bit better or detects units a little bit better are going to be the primary focus of these stratagems. One thing that's really cool is the power levels of a unit are really going to come into play when it comes to being able to detect a unit. So if your power level is a certain height, or certain level, that's going to determine how easy or difficult it is to basically detect you. So I think that's really cool. Now, we also have new deployment that is actually old deployments. So there might be some distances that are changed, but they do look rather familiar. And I'm hoping we see some of the ones that we've had previous, but I really hope they come up with some really creative ideas to build these different deployment zones. Although the terrain and the armies on the table really make the fun, the deployment zones are a huge factor in that. Taking a look at match play, what we have are 6 different missions for Eternal War and 6 different missions for Maelstrom. Very familiar. There's also a new stratagem which is focused primarily on Maelstrom missions, and that's the ability to discard a card immediately and then draw something new. Although I know a lot of us have done the old, if you draw something and it's something you can't attain, then you can discard it right away. We'll see how people kind of play around with this and if they really use the stratagem or if they work it into their games. We'll see. When it comes to the actual deck itself for picking up your actual objectives, they've reworked it from the bottom up. So I'm really happy to see that because the previous deck, as good as it was, had some definite flaws in them. So I'm really glad they've re-examined the deck and they've reworked it. So I'm excited to see what we're going to get in regards to it. So taking a look at the different types of deployment. Now in 3rd edition, we had a whole bunch of different missions. I think we had probably 9 separate types of missions to go through, and a lot of the different missions played off of these different types of deployment. We had deployment that was in 4 quarters, so you would take 1 quarter, your opponent would get the other one. We had some deployments that were 6 inches from the edge for the attacker, and then for the defender, you might have like 6 inches on the edge here, down here. We had others that were like 12 inches for your attacker, and then your defender might have 12 inches the corner. We had certain sabotage missions where we had defenders stuff in the center and the attacker coming in from one side of the table moving forth, and then your reinforcements would come in from different edges. We had ones that were like a recon mission. What was really cool about the recon mission is it was actually an 18-inch deployment, so it was like you're moving and you came across the enemy like, oh geez, what's going on? So you're really close to them. And then we actually had ambush ones where the attackers had a deployment zone almost all the way around, and the defenders were in the center and actually had to escape and push through the enemy lines and try and get as many units out. So that was kind of cool. Now, other different types of, let's go back one. Other different types of missions, we had breakout ones where we were stuck in the center as the attacker and defenders on either side. You had stronghold missions where you had deployment in the center and then your attackers on the outside. We had different ones like attackers and defenders with different sizes of deployment. We had our standard 12 inches. This one was kind of neat where it kind of harkens back to the old school, well, I guess new school compared to this one, Dawn of War, where you had defenders on the table and then the attackers would bring their forces on from reserve. And then we also had another one that had like different types of no man's land, primary and secondary lines, where you had a fortification zone, a secondary line, and deployment zones for the attackers. So it was really cool. They had all kinds of different deployments. So I'm really hoping we see some similar ones for the narrative, and I hope we see some really creative ones when it comes to the match play. So those are the different types of, I guess, really the deployment. When we're taking a look at the missions were divided up into an attacker and defender, and they actually had different force organization charts associated with them. So we had attackers and defenders for take and hold, meat grinder, and bunker assault missions. We had attacker and defenders with different things like elites and troops as primary, where the defender had to start off with 2 troops, and that was for like rear guard, breakthrough, or blitz missions. So some of these are sounding a bit familiar, right? We've got sabotage, ambush, and strong point attacks where the raiders, or the attackers I should say, have troops, and then the defenders would have at least 2 troops available to them. And there was also limited like fast attack or limited heavy support. So I really like how these ones were done. There's a lot more kind of pre-planning and a little bit more difficult to kind of just pick up and go, but I do like the direction they're going in here. In the past, anyways. What was also really cool in 3rd edition is they actually had campaign guidelines or tools to help you create a campaign. So ladder campaigns, maps, and even trees. And they had examples of different missions that would be available in them. Running campaigns. They actually had rules for improving units and stuff like that. So it was really cool. 5th edition was where we actually started to see the amount of missions, or at least deployment, reduced. The pitched battle, which is very familiar to what we have now, which is just your standard 12 inches in. They actually played off of distance from people, so they didn't really play off of like a 6x4 table necessarily. The spearhead, which was 12 inches from the center, and you deploy on opposite deployment zones. And then, of course, the Dawn of War, which is probably one of my favorite ones, where the person deploying first moves up to 24 inches in the center table, and then the person going second can put their units on the table or keep them in reserve, and everything basically comes on turn 1. So I really like this mission a lot. There was a lot of fun stuff that came from that. And then finally, we take a look at 7th edition, where we had our standard 12-inch deployment. We had our hammer and anvil, and then we had our vanguard strike. So as we saw over the years, they kind of been reduced in the different types of deployment. I really like the creativity put into some of the stuff in 3rd, and I really hope we see some really cool stuff when it comes to 3rd edition missions being potentially repurposed or tweaked up and used in this new edition. I'm hoping, I really hope, because some of these things were really cool. I just want to take a quick second here and just show you guys. Like, this thing was a huge book, and only a portion of it was really fluff, and then there was just all the armies were in here. Can I get there? Like, all this was just armies. Okay, where did it start? Like, here, you got all the armies. Everything right there. All the armies, just everything. It's Space Marines, Dark Eldar, Tyranids, Space Wolves, everything in there that you needed. So I really like this book. The rules might not have been the best and things like that, but I definitely like the rule book. Anyways, I'm getting way off topic here. So with that said, what do you guys think of the new missions? Are you excited about the various different types of play? Narrative play has really got me curious now, especially with them bringing up some of the different titles and promises towards different types of play. The match play is definitely going to be something I'm going to be diving headlong into, but narrative play is definitely something I'm going to be playing with as well. So I look forward to hearing your comments, and I really hope we generate some discussion and talk about some hopes. What kind of deployment would you guys like to see brought back from previous editions? What ones do you not want to see? I know a lot of people dislike setting up Vanguard if you don't remember what the distances are from the corners. That made life a lot easier, that's for sure. So yeah, if you like the content, don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing what the comments are in the comments below. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye now.